Carol Ridgway Bissett, a descendant of the area's original inhabitants, turns her back on a busy light industrial area and steps into a remnant of bush at Salamander Bay. Each step brings her closer to the spirits of her people.
Koori traditions is spiritually linked to the environment. That's a whole way of our life. We preserve the environment because we had to in order to survive.
Carol says the area, a seasonal waterhole and part of the port's complex wetland system, was once the sacred preserve of Aboriginal women. No men allowed. Women camped in the area using its stock of natural foods and bush medicines and conducting initiation and fertility ceremonies.
We use the waterhole for, shall we say, giving life. You know, we had to immerse ourselves in water and ask the water serpent to give us life, you know.
Carol was joined by other Aboriginal women and supporters to protest against plans by the Port Stephens Council for a 70-lot residential development on the site. 4 hectares of land, including the waterhole, are to be left intact. There was no sign of the bulldozers today, but the area is scheduled for work within the next 2 months. The Worimi people claim heritage surveys are needed on the site and are seeking a federal government restraining order on the development. Port Stephens Mayor Ines Crichton says council will pay for archaeological and anthropological surveys to be carried out before any work begins, but protesters remain wary of council promises.
Don Cook is on a mission to meet his mum. He's established his own family here in Australia. He's now planning to fly back to England for a long-lost reunion.
I think I'm going to cry and I'm going to just chuck my arms around just about anybody I can see. No, it's just going to be very emotional, I think.
Back in 1959, as a 13-year-old, Don came to Australia under a Bernardo welfare scheme. His relationship with his mother and stepfather had broken down. As the years went by, Don married Rose and they built their home and their lives at Lake Macquarie. They tried to keep in contact with Don's mum, but she was married to an army man and moved about. 34 years on, through Bernardo's, they tried again and the news was good.
We got a telephone call saying that I had an address from my mother and a phone number from my sister to say, please ring, you know, so we did just that.
In the last 2 weeks there have been countless calls and letters with photos of his 71-year-old mother. Rose and Don are now trying to sell their car to pay for air tickets to London and catch up on 3 decades of their lives. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The images are mostly aspects of myself that are sort of applicable to sort of everybody. There's images of pocket watches and things like that that most people have, an old grandfather has handed down or something like that. But this particular pocket watch means a lot to me.
Entitled Warnings Moving Clockwise, the exhibit represents 20-year-old Tracy Johnson's first public showing.
Gets your name out there for a start. That's what I'm mostly hoping to do.
Also on display, To the Point of Balance by sculptor Warwick Timmins. 17 pieces, ranging from figurative abstracts to flowing shapes, have been carved from Hebbel blocks, an aerated concrete material. In ambergris, artist Caithness Wand has used an unusual subject matter to reflect the Republican debate. Her work also combines painting, photography and electronics. The 3 artists are all visual arts students at the University of Newcastle. The exhibition will be open at the Wattspace Gallery until February 28.
It may be a far cry from the great ships sent down the Newcastle Dockyard's slipways, but the Blue Line Sydney Showboat 2 represents a return to the once thriving industry. 50 jobs will be created during the 8-month project, which will see the ornate showboat become a temporary part of the harbour's skyline. Newcastle was chosen as the construction site over stiff competition from Singapore, where the showboat's sister ship, already in operation in Sydney, was built. The vessel offers lucrative trade on Sydney Harbour, pulling in $10 million for Blue Lines each year. The company is turning away passengers and urgently needs another vessel to handle the demand. The company claims as many as 140,000 passengers seek entertainment-style cruises, many of them overseas visitors. Blue Lines began its operations with a converted Stockton ferry. The showboat will begin taking shape as soon as its building materials arrive. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Flashy winger Jamie Ainscough wasn't quite so fleet-footed today. Neither were his Knights teammates, brothers Matthew and Andrew Johns. Even the Chief was there at the Newcastle Art Gallery, modelling a new range of uniforms for the club.
Mutton dressed up as lamb?
Possibly, yeah. I think so for sure. But yeah, it's a good quality lamb now.
In association with Rundles, the Knights now have a new corporate wardrobe from casual wear to just plain flash.
Now the first grade players will all be wearing a suit, and which can be worn as a blazer or also with casual with dress trousers. Jamie's just showing you the casual look there with the t-shirt and jeans.
And while they look a little embarrassed, the players are as pleased as punch with the new clobber, a professional team of athletes with a professional look.
Reckon you'll turn a few heads when you're getting on that bus going to the game?
Yeah, I think so. And as long as I'd imagine 60 blokes all dressed in the same gear of this calibre, it'll certainly turn some heads, so it should be good.
The 2-week-old mystery of what became of Dallas Idstein was answered in part late yesterday when police searched bushland at Freeman's Waterhole west of Lake Macquarie. Dallas Idstein's naked body was found in a shallow grave. Today, search parties fanned out across the area. Police have charged 35-year-old Curry man Raymond Nixon with murder. He made a brief appearance in Maitland Court this morning. The court heard that Nixon had met Idstein near Maitland's High Street railway station at about midday on the 31st of January to talk about a former relationship. The police prosecutor said that in a record of interview, Nixon said that he recalled picking up the woman and driving her to Freeman's Waterhole. He also recalled carrying her body to a bush grave and remembered taking off her clothes and discarding them along the F3 freeway. Police have recovered a number of Idstein's personal belongings along with a spade. Counsel for the accused applied for bail for his client, claiming Nixon sought psychiatric help to explain memory blanks suffered around the time of Dallas Idstein's death. Bail was refused and Nixon was remanded in custody to appear in court again on the 14th of March. Police continue to canvass the area where Dallas Idstein was last seen alive, seeking further information surrounding the circumstances of her disappearance. Andrew Lobb, NBN News. Shane Thrupp appeared in Maitland Court this morning charged with the manslaughter of his 7-week-old daughter Shay. The infant died on the 12th of September last year, reportedly after her father stumbled on the steps of a caravan they were living in and fell heavily with her in his arms. An inquest into the death was to be held next week, but police told the court that after extensive inquiries they would attempt to prosecute Thrupp. Counsel for Thrupp told the court that any case against his client would be based on circumstantial and conflicting medical evidence. Thrupp, who now lives in Queensland, was granted conditional bail with a $2,000 surety put up by his mother and stepfather. He was also ordered to surrender his passport. The matter was adjourned to Murrurundi Court on the 25th of March. Young New South Wales drivers face a 1 in 25 chance of being seriously injured or killed in cars before they reach the age of 25. The New South Wales Stay Safe Committee is urging greater driver training to be introduced in high schools, then followed up with retesting once young people get behind the wheel.
After they've had, say, 3 years' experience of driving, they ought to be better able to cope with a heavier test, a tougher test, and let's hope that might do something towards reducing the deaths on the roads.
The committee believes that just qualifying for a licence doesn't in itself equip drivers to survive the roads, and says the carnage involving young people has now overtaken drink driving as the major cause of concern. Contributing factors in the road deaths of young drivers often include a sense of immortality combined with speed. All drivers may look forward to periodic skills training.
Maybe even after 10 years of holding a full licence, people ought to be considered for a fresh education and a fresh testing program.
It's a shot in the arm for the Hunter Street Mall, which is facing stiff competition from outer suburb shopping centres. McDonald's will set up in this building beside Chandler's. The shop has been vacant for nearly 18 months. Just a block away, a separate 100-seat cafe cum restaurant is nearing completion. Owner David McElwain says he welcomes McDonald's, giving people more variety and choice.
People will come and this is what we want. We've all been waiting for something to happen and it's just about to do so.
Newcastle Council has given McDonald's its development approval. Work should start on the site next month. Meanwhile, despite a strong protest from the local P&C, McDonald's has been given the OK to build just down the road from Singleton High School. The P&C is worried it will take business from the school canteen. Council says the new restaurant will employ 80 full and part-time workers. The wages bill will top $400,000 per year.
Revelations that all was not right surfaced about a fortnight ago. The club's auditors, G. Hutchings and Company, during the course of normal checks, noticed some figures didn't add up.
I was contacted by the accountant and told of the possible position about the finances, and he asked then that he would like to do a cash audit within the club.
The cash audit found several $100,000 was missing from the club's finances. The discovery was discussed during a meeting of the Board of Directors last Wednesday. There it was decided to refer the matter to the police. As a result of the discovery, has anybody been suspended?
Yes, a senior member of the staff has been suspended.
The situation has rocked the 39-year-old club. Despite this, it's business as usual.
The club is very financial and of course we are trading as normal, and our commitments with people that have bookings will be carried out.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
It's called Meet the Buyers, and it's the first time the expo has been held in Newcastle. Government departments, like other businesses, require goods and services. They're after the best product at the best price.
Value for money is the basis for government buying these days. We don't just buy necessarily on cheapest price. And local suppliers can offer a good deal in terms of value for money because we don't have to look at additional transport costs, communications are lower, responsiveness is better.
30 exhibitors from federal, state and local authorities were on hand to explain their buying needs. For the more than 2,000 suppliers who attended, it was an opportunity to access lucrative markets which have mostly remained out of their reach.
We're from Thorney My Rental Australia, so we're interested in developing the concept of hire, both short and long term, to government.
It's catering or hospitality, or whether any of them have any conference needs in Sydney. I'm from the Hyatt Kingsgate Hotel.
We're only a small business and we get to hear of names, but how to get in contact with them is sometimes pretty difficult. So we find this extremely good and interesting.
The footy season for Newcastle went into full swing last night and it was a fiery start. The Knights were on the wrong end of the penalty kicks and the Tigers got away to an early 4-point lead. Tough second rower Bugsy Mullane was back to his old form after a year out with shoulder problems. Just seconds later, he was hit in a tackle and the second rower will need medical tests to determine his immediate football future. After some brilliant lead-up work from halfback Nathan Wood, the Tigers went in for the first try. The Knights fought back. Good play from new boy Wire put Ainscough in the corner. It was 8-6 at half-time, but the Knights were making too many elementary mistakes. Even with one Tiger sent off for a professional foul, the Knights couldn't break through. Balmain grabbed another penalty goal and a last-minute field goal to seal the game 11-6. Earlier it was a stormy clash for East and Para. East came out with some positive football, picking up 2 tries, the first to Jeff Orford, even though the replay showed he was offside, and the second to winger Werrett, who skipped around a tackle to score in the corner. The downpour at half-time seemed to dull the play and the Roosters scraped home 10 points to 8. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The humid evening appeared to suit the Uni batsmen as they set about racking up their target, but misfielding by Lambton allowed them to take the runs easier than expected. Martin Tresley was the backbone of Uni's innings, recording 3 sixes and taking man of the match honours, and he had plenty of luck on his side, escaping a very confident caught behind appeal. But his reprieve was only short-lived. The very next ball he was heading back to the stands on 35. His partner, Greg Burgess, took up the task, but a mix-up left him stranded and well out of his crease. That opened the way for Uni's wicketkeeper, Darren Sheeb, to make an impression, but he was caught behind for 1 by his opposite number. Uni all out in the 28th over for 120. Lambton started well but lost their last 4 wickets for just 8 runs. University collected the $750 for the win, Lambton an easy $300. While it's mathematically possible for the Breakers to make the finals, realistically club officials know it will be a miracle if it happens. And although they probably won't feature in the top 6, the Breakers will play a major role in determining who will be there. Coach Graham Jennings knows his side has the ability to score goals, and last night at training had the players going over and over their shots at the keeper. Captain Darren Stewart showed no signs of a pre-season knee injury and bagged quite a few goals. Star striker Warren Spink also rehearsed his fakes for the penalty shots. And while the session was meant to loosen up the players, the club's goalies were given a pretty hard workout. Tonight's game starts at Mitre 10 Stadium at 7:30.
The problem has haunted Moree for more than 20 years. A survey has shown more than 1,000 trucks causing noise and dust pollution roll through the main business centre of the town every day. The council meeting with consultant Sinclair Knight was aimed at working out the best solution to the problem.
There is no easy answer. Whichever way we go will help some people and upset others. And I think the difficulty in Moree, of course, is having the two rivers. So whatever we look at will mean another bridge, and this is where the cost comes in.
The answer is not a wholesale bypass of the town, as businesses rely on passing traffic for trade, making it a fickle problem that has not been fixed by previous councils.
I believe they looked at this about 20 years ago, and actually a former mayor said they had plans 20 years ago, and my comment to him was, I wish to hell you'd have gone ahead with it then, because it is getting more involved.
The proposed plan to manage the heavy vehicle traffic is expected to be put to the public for their comments in about 2 months.
This is probably one of the biggest community things we've been involved in, or I've been involved in, since probably fluoride. And I think whatever we do here has to be a compromise for the benefit of most of the community. Obviously we can't satisfy everybody, but I just felt today, while we went around in circles a bit, we are making some positive steps now towards getting some sort of answer.
Eraring Power Station at the southern end of Lake Macquarie uses around 3.5 million litres of water a day. Until now, it's been water of drinking quality. But with the signing of this agreement, Pacific Power will use treated effluent from the new Dora Creek Sewerage Plant. The plant currently services around 300 people, but it's being expanded to cater for the needs of around 48,000. The Hunter Water Corporation was originally planning to pump effluent from Dora Creek to Toronto and then on to Belmont, where it would be discharged through an ocean outfall. But in the short term at least, that's no longer necessary, saving the corporation around $2.5 million.
The more important advantage, though, is environmental advantage. In particular, by this water being reused, it means there's less pressure on the water in the Williams and the other sources we have, which are under some stress.
It's a deal which will benefit all concerned.
It also saves approximately $800,000 a year in water bill.
The effluent from Dora Creek will have to be specially treated by Pacific Power before it can be used in the power-making process. While the agreement is for 15 years only, the Water Corporation is hopeful it will last well into the future and be an example other industries will follow.
It's technology that's been around for some years, but it's being refined over time. It's getting better and cheaper all the time. As it gets better and cheaper, there's a greater incentive, of course, for Pacific Power and other users to adopt it.
Tani Jones died 2 years ago. She had her adenoids and tonsils removed in a routine operation at Lingard Hospital. Her early signs of recovery seemed normal, but her condition worsened and Tani died the next day. Newcastle Coroner's Court heard today from the surgeon who carried out the operation. Dr Brian Williams said he was satisfied that his patient had received adequate post-operative care and in his opinion didn't need to be hooked up to a blood oxygen monitoring machine or be kept in intensive care. He also conceded that the management practice for such patients had changed since Tani's case. The court heard that Tani had suffered a turn and that a contributing factor to her death had been low salt levels caused by vomiting and an upset fluid balance. Dr Nicholas Ferguson, who carried out a post-mortem on the girl, told the court that she died of a cerebral edema brought on by multiple seizures, but said there were many contributing factors to the death. Coroner Jeff Brown adjourned the matter until the 23rd of March after legal argument over new witnesses. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
For decades, the tall palms have overlooked the playtime of the children at St Patrick's. Today, all 7 trees were dug up and taken away in a relatively easy operation with the help of a tree-moving machine from Sydney. The resident Sisters of Mercy watched with interest as one by one the palm trees were plucked from the ground. A few fronds had to be cut from the trees so they could be tied down to the truck. Then, after a short trip to Blacksmiths Beach, the trees were replanted. The palms will be a permanent feature at the beach. Lake Macquarie Council will provide new native trees for the playground at St Patrick's. Does this mean there'll be no more Palm Sunday?
Oh, definitely not. No, we still have a couple over at the other side of the school and we still have some in our garden.
The smell coming from a small brick cottage in Islington was finally too much for one neighbour. He called the police this afternoon. Police broke into the home and found the remains of a man in his late 60s. The man of Polish extraction hadn't been seen since around Christmas. Other residents of Cole Street spoke of his hermit-like existence.
He's been living by himself all these years.
How many years do you think he would have been by himself?
Oh, bloody 20 years, I suppose.
Some told of the man's generosity at times. An invalid, he occasionally tipped heavily for a simple errand to nearby shops. But of late the man had turned on those who'd offered help.
He had his leg cut off just above the knee because he had sugar diabetes and they cut his leg off. I went up to the hospital with him for that and helped him around with that, and I've done all I could for him.
I come a couple of times to him price. He don't want it anymore. Next time when I come in, I don't want you.
The man's fully clothed and decomposing body was found slumped on a couch in a back room of the house. Police, using breathing apparatus, searched the cottage for clues to his next of kin. The man's name has not been released. Police are attempting to locate and notify relatives. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Mayor Barry Ryan officially opened the youth centre to Gloucester's teenagers. The Hunter Area Assistance Scheme provided more than $21,000 towards the project, which includes a part-time youth centre coordinator. The teenagers have been using the pool tables and other facilities for nearly 12 months. It's open to the town's teenagers on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday afternoons, as well as Friday and Saturday nights. The centre is a happy epilogue to a story that started in tragedy. The happy faces of these Gloucester youngsters in contrast to the public outcry when 2 teenagers died 3 years ago in a road smash. That started a public campaign to get a youth centre, with the former Anglican church being transformed into a meeting place for the young. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Paul Harrigan hasn't played a game of footy since September last year. No sooner had he started pre-season training and specialists found a bone spur behind his knee that could have ended his playing days altogether. However, after intense physio and missing trial and Challenge Cup games, he was today given the green light to play this weekend. Also returning, Harrigan's flatmate and fellow forward Adam Muir. After a brilliant display in the sevens, Muir was sidelined with a medial ligament injury.
It hurts a lot, especially after a while the boys start to give it you a while, not playing and that, and it's just good to get back on the field.
And despite a gash to the face that required 4 stitches, Robbie McCormack will also line up against the Sharks. But it's not all good news. Fullback Robbie O'Davis is out with a back injury.
Just brought on from carrying heavy stuff at work, and I'll give it a bit of a miss and get right for the start of the season.
With O'Davis out, Brad Godden will switch to fullback and interchange with Russell Wire. Coach David Waite says he won't determine the exact makeup of his forward pack until just before game time in Sydney. Tonight a hint though on his game plan, plenty of rehearsal on second phase plays.
"16 dealers from as far away as South Australia, Victoria and Queensland have set up shop in the school's multi-purpose centre. Everything from antique clocks to jewellery, silver and beds are on show, and all are for sale. To be classed as an antique, the items must be at least 50 years old. Some pieces at the fair are more than a century old. One of the highlights is a unique and charming cross with cut diamonds, valued at $6,000.
Proceeds go to the Port Macquarie High School P&C, which hands the money over and goes to sporting equipment, computers, anything to help our children at school.
As well as buying, people can sell their antiques to the dealers or come in for a free valuation. The 7th annual fair will finish tomorrow. Organisers expect more than 2,000 people to attend the event over the weekend. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.